be based on, I would say, 80% of the listing appointments, right? And then you're going to get the ones that are more difficult and or the questions may not be the ones that you're prepared for. And on some of those, I would just suggest that ask any questions, any objections. We could talk through that. Or another call we can do, Gabe, is handling objections during the listing appointment. Handling objections during a buyer's appointment, and just be open about it, right? Just a free for all. Ask the questions and let's shoot from the hip and see how we would do it. So let's just get started. I've given Gabe the listing presentation, but I'm not going to go over that first. First thing is just to recap on the phone call, right? So most of the time, I would say almost all the time, the seller is going to reach out somehow to say, hey, I'm interested in selling my home. So that phone call is your first opportunity to create rapport, build trust and confidence in the seller, and set the appointment. The most important thing is setting the appointment, right? So the questions I would be asking the first one, as I'm getting to know them, hey, Gabe, thank you so much for reaching out to me. I heard that you're looking to sell your home. I really appreciate you thinking about us. Hey, tell me a little bit about, tell me who referred you to us, or how did you hear about us, right? That's the first thing that you want to know. If it's a person that's referred you, then you want to elevate that person, right? Oh, I want to thank Joe for sending you my way. Joe's an amazing guy. How do you know Joe, right? Build that rapport with them. Okay, great. Just having a conversation, just like you would do with anybody else. If it's I saw your sign. Oh, great. Where do you see my sign at? What neighborhood was that? Do you live in the neighborhood? Oh, no, I was just driving by. Are you looking at homes? Because maybe they were looking at homes and you can get that motivation that they're looking for another house, right? Well, great, Gabe. Well, tell me a little bit about your house. What's the address of it? So while you're talking to me, I'm just going to pull it up on the MLS and on the tax records just to verify that the information that I have is correct. And so that when I meet you, I have all the information that I need to present correctly to you, right? And so you're going to give the address. You're going to pull it up at that time. While they're speaking about, the property and things, then you can pull up the photos. Hey, I looked at the house. Man, this looks like a gorgeous home. Looks like you bought it, 5 years ago? Is that about right? Yes, that's right. Okay, great. And have you done any updates or anything since you bought the house? It looks like it was already an amazing home, whatnot, right? They're going to tell you. Again, I'm going to reiterate this. You would ask this question. This is one of the most important questions. What about your home what about your home that you feel adds value to it? That's just an open-ended question. And there you're going to find a lot of the information about their disc profile, so you can find out their communication style. But that feel is important because it's very subjective. It's subjective to the seller. I know I bring this up a lot because it's happened quite a few times whenever they say we have amazing fruit trees in the backyard. I had one client that said, oh, we brought in, 2 tons, I don't remember, 14 truckloads of like high-end soil because I'm really a big gardener. Those are things that you're going to have to put, give emphasis to whenever you go back to the property, right? You're going to write these notes down so that the seller knows that you are listening to them. And that's important to them, whatever it is that they're going to say what they feel about. And then you're going to acknowledge that whenever you meet with them, right? And so then you're going to say also, okay, great. And then also when you're planning on selling this home, are you staying in town? Are you moving out of town? What are your plans there? They're going to give you their plans. Oh, we were looking at a home last week. Oh, great. Were you looking at that with the realtor? Are you working with somebody already? No, we just stepped into an open house. We did this. Okay, great. I would love to hear about that as well. We got a great buyers team, or I'm a great buyers agent. I've lived in the neighborhood for 10 years. And again, building confidence and rapport. Also, when you hear that they want to buy a home and you talk with them a little bit about, that their goals in that, it may be wise to bring some properties so that they can review and show them that you're proactive in working to help them, right? Even though you haven't gotten the business, your goal is whenever you're selling, One of the things that I like to do with a seller or a buyer is I like to see from their perspective and say, how do I want to be sold? What are the things that I'm looking for? You never want to sound like, that salesperson that's just like hitting them, like, okay, well, what kind of house is it? Where are you looking? What's the price range? Don't get so detailed. It's just an open conversation. Oh, what are you looking for? Oh, you're looking to upsize. You're looking to downsize. Okay, great. Well, tell me about that. And just have that smooth communication. Um, and then you're going to also ask this question. Oh, by the way, do you have a price in mind that you were looking to get? This is super important too, because sometimes the comps could be, you could be in a neighborhood where you've got a house that sold for 800,000, you got a house that sold for 1 million. You got custom homes that are all over the place, right? And you'll find that 50% of the time, I would say, that the seller is going to give you a number. Hey, I was looking to be around 800,000. I owe 600. I think that's a good number for me. Okay, I'm going to run the comps for you to make sure that we price it correctly and get you the most money that you're looking for in the shortest amount of time. And but if you get them saying like, and I have this, this is a lot of times a D personality will say, well, that's the reason why I'm calling you, because you're the expert. And so how do you overcome that? And it's easy. And this, I'm telling you, this is 90% that you're going to get the sales price from them, or where they want to land at. And it's going to be like, oh yeah, no problem. I'm definitely going to do the comps. I was just asking because most of my sellers, when they've already called to set up an appointment, they've had in mind kind of what the range of homes are selling for. Maybe they've already looked at homes in their neighborhood. So I was just asking if you had a number in mind. When you repose a question that way, it takes away the anxiety that you're trying to figure out what the number is that you need to get to sell the home. And they understand that you're just trying to help them to understand where their thought process is. And a lot of times they'll say, you know what, there's a house down the street. It was selling for 1 million. I know my house is not worth 1 million. So when they say that, you know that if it is worth 1 million, go ahead. Hey, I know that you weren't confident that your house is worth 1 million, but I really feel we can get that. And they're like, oh my gosh, you really think so? This is at the appointment, right? So you're setting this all up. Then you set the appointment up for whatever the time and day. I don't like setting up, and this could be against, I've never done a Tom Ferry or Mike Ferry or any type of coaching like that. So, but I don't like when a salesperson tells me, hey, Mark, what's your availability? How's Tuesday at 2 o'clock or Wednesday at 4 o'clock? I just feel that that's a very salesy response. And if they're in sales, they'll know that you're being salesy. And that's what you don't want to do. If you did it to me, I would already know right off the bat you're transactional, the way you're thinking. And so just be aware on how you're talking to your clients as well. So when I set an appointment, I'm just like, hey, what works for you this week? Is it better in the evenings or I'm open. So is it better in the evenings? Is it better in the morning? And also you want to make sure, hey, what time and day works for you, that you and your significant other, spouse, whoever the decision maker will be there. Because one thing is whatever we talk about, even here today, if you don't continue to practice it, if you're not in real estate, 90% of what I say, you're not going to be able to convey to the next party, and you're going to lose the listing, right? Because that person's going to be, oh, I liked Mark. Remember this. Typically, when you have a partner, right, a spouse or a partner, and one person is opposite of the other. Sometimes that person doesn't take the recommendation of their spouse or their partner as serious as it would come from a professional. So that's very, very important, right? If Nikki were like, oh, I really like the salesperson and da da da, here's what they do. They're the number one, and I think they do some kind of marketing, and already right there they're thinking, I'm not sure if I want to go this route. I met with somebody at Keller Williams, and I like this person. But if you get them both together, then you can win both people over by understanding what the objections are. Okay, so now we're past the questions, and we've set the appointment. Always let them know that, hey, by the way, before I head to the appointment, I'm just going to remind you. I'm going to just follow up to remind you. A lot of people don't like to follow up because they're scared they're going to get rescheduled. But what's worse is not following up, showing up. The client forgot. They're in their pajamas. They're frustrated. They're mad at themselves, but they won't show that, right? So always follow up and say, and it could just be with a text and say, hey, Gabe, just I'm excited about seeing you tomorrow at 2 o'clock. I'll be on time. I'll send you a text when I'm on the way. That's it. Don't ask a question. Are you still good for the appointment? Assume the appointment is good, right? I heard this one from, this is just a nugget I'm going to throw out there on the buyer side, because we're a flex team, and we had one of our flex trainers come and talk to us about appointments that get like people no show on you, right? Especially on buyer appointments on internet leads. And what he does is he gets in the car, right? And he says, sends a little video. Hey, Gabe, I'm excited about showing you 123 Main Street. I'm already on the car on the way. I'll be there in 45 minutes. Boom. You're letting them know that you're already ready. You're on the way. And if they cancel on you, they're canceling on you and knowing that they're disrupting your schedule. If they happen to send you a message saying, oh my gosh, I forgot about the appointment, say, no problem. I've already set the appointment. I'm going to go look at the house for you. I'll video it for you. And go through some of the pluses and the minuses of this house. And then if you really like it, we'll set that appointment up again. And what is that doing? It's showing them that you're out there working hard for them and not just going to just because they can't make it close, shut it down. Okay. So I thought that was a really good nugget. So now you're preparing for the listing appointment. Couple things on the preparation. This is not how to do comps or anything, but you know how to do comps. And if you don't, that should be a secondary class, how to properly do comps. We've done 20, just when we were with Zillow Offers, we did 25,000 CMAs for Zillow for our sellers to get them offers. So, doing comps is something that we're really good at as well. So we can have a secondary call on that. But what I like to do is you should call all the active listings and find out what the BA commission is. The reason is when you start to talk to the seller about the BA commission, you can say, oh, by the way, in your neighborhood, the 5 competitive homes that you're selling, they're offering, this one's offering 2.5, this one's offering 3, this one's offering 3, this one's offering 3, this one's offering 2.5. So if they're thinking in their mind, oh, I spoke to somebody and they said I should offer 1, you can already let them know that the competition is offering this. And we'll discuss that when we go over the listing commission in the presentation. So, okay. And if anybody, Gabe, if you got any questions or you want to stop it and pause it, you let me know. If not, I'm just going to keep going.
So I want to, I guess, clarity on something. So sure. It sounds like you spend a lot of energy and emphasis on building rapport. From what I'm hearing you're not asking magical questions. You're just asking normal questions. And yeah. it's the way that you're asking them and the way that you're framing the words and getting them to do a lot of the talking in the first initial call so that they feel comfortable with you already. Is that right?
Yeah. This is funny. But some of the best conversations are had when you don't speak. I'm one that speaks all the time. I interrupt people all the time. I mean, I'll be like, oh, I'm sorry for interrupting you. But when I'm in front of a client, that doesn't happen. I will just be like a stone, just giving them cues that I'm understanding. Maybe I'm writing notes down, but I let them speak. That's really important. Yeah, I think most of it is fundamental. However, there's those little questions like, how do you feel? That's a big one. What were you guys thinking that you could get for your home? That's a big one. Who how did you hear about us? That's a big one. Those 3, if you're not asking those 3, you're not performing the pre-listing appointment accurately. I think you're leaving a lot of money on the table because those are things that are going to overcome objections when you get there.
Yeah. Questions? So what I hear you saying is ask a lot of open-ended questions and get them talking. And then from there, expand on their thoughts, expand on what they've told you and ask open-ended questions about what they've told you and clarifying questions. So that's what I've heard you say these last 10, 15 minutes is basically ask a open-ended question, let them talk. And then based on their response, ask them another open-ended question and let them continue talking about their goals, their dreams, their price points. They've done all the talking, all the selling. You just listened the majority of the time, and then you just shoot for the appointment.
Yeah, and it's funny how many people will say you're a great conversationalist, and maybe you said 3 words, and they said 10,000, but they feel because people want to feel heard.
Yeah.
And they're about themselves, right? And so the more that you allow them to be about themselves, the more that they feel confident about being with you. And this helps you when they're interviewing multiple agents,
So
right?
this is a good
So
for all of you. Go ahead.
Yeah, so it's just when they're reviewing, let's say they're interviewing multiple agents and you're the second person, there's the first person was me and I built all this rapport. The second person and third person were just like, okay, great. 123 Main Street. All right. And they're trying to get off the phone to set the appointment. And they're like, okay, how about tomorrow, Tuesday? Okay, I'll see you tomorrow. Boom, done, right? They set the appointment, but if they meet with me, they may have no issues calling you to cancel that appointment. But if they liked you, it's a lot harder for them to call and cancel that appointment. So there's more psychology that goes into it than just, hey, being friendly. It's going to help you close deals. And you're going to start, you all have your own personality in the way that you communicate. And you're going to know like, hey, I messed up on this listing appointment. I didn't get this listing appointment. Also, and I'll just say this right now, if you miss the listing appointment, you have to follow up with the seller and ask them why. You have to. You got to ask them, hey, by the way, Gabe, man, I had a great rapport with you, and congratulations on listing your home. If I have a buyer, I'm going to bring them to you. Can you do me a favor? Because I'm always trying to improve who I am as a real estate agent. What's the reason why you went with ABC Realty? And they're going to tell you a lot of times, sometimes it might be nothing you did. It could have been that, hey, man, you know what? My brother gave us a friend and we didn't want to tell them no, so we used them. Or it could be, when you came in, you didn't look at my wife. You didn't acknowledge her. I know she was in the kitchen or she was like here, or my husband was like doing the lawn, but, he really felt like you disrespected him by now. And that's something that you learn from and go, okay, next time, I don't care if they're in the lawn. Hey, is that your husband back there? Can I say hi to him? Hey, that kind of thing. So, just making sure you build that rapport. All right. And so next, go ahead.
I just want to tell the team this. Hey, team, I want you guys to write this down. Selling is not telling. Selling is asking really good questions. That's what Mark is telling you right now. If you're the person, you get into a conversation with a homeowner, in this case, a homeowner, and they ask you a question and you start blabbing off and you hear yourself talking over and over, and you can just see it in their face or hear it in their voice that they're drained, it's because you're talking too much. You shouldn't have to sell your value proposition. You should ask them what they're looking for. And number 2, what Mark said is that people have a hard time telling people they like no. If they like you, they have a harder time telling you no. Think about all your friends. If they invite you out, you're like, oh my gosh, I really don't want to go. But it's like, they ask me, you have a hard time telling people you like the word no. So back over to you, Mark. Go ahead and
I want to add one more question in here. I think it's important. Is that if it's a first-time seller, this is not going to apply. But if it's somebody that's sold before, somebody that was listed before, maybe it's an expired, or you saw that it was on the market a year before, you can ask them, hey, by the way, what has your experience been positive and negatively working with realtors in the past? What is it that you're looking for your next broker to represent you? Because they might say, you know what, that's a good question. I had this broker and they would never answer their phone, or they did this or did that, or they wouldn't do an open house when I asked them to. And that would also get you conversation points when you get to this next step. So let's go ahead and get to going to the appointment. So this is the day of the appointment. You should already, I like to do me personally, I like to do my comps the day before or the day of. I want it to be fresh on my mind. I also want the newest data, because houses will pop up on the market. And if you don't have the neighbor's house on the market on your comps, or down the street, and you don't see it when you get there, that could put you in a bad position when you're saying, oh, your house should go for $1 million. And they're like, well, my neighbor's right down the street, 1.3, it's the exact same house. right? And then you're caught with like, oh my gosh, I don't even know what I'm doing right here, right? So make sure that your comps are new and they're fresh. And then I always get to the appointment at least 20 minutes before the time, and not to the house, to the neighborhood. If you're not driving the neighborhood in advance, which I know Kyle does something even more, the more that you can do, the better your chances. So if you're able to walk all the active properties before, again, this is a big listing appointment, or you guys aren't close. If you're not doing a listing appointment a day, you have the time. I would do like 3, 4 listing appointments a day. So if you have the time, you should walk those houses, because when you walk into the seller's house, you'll be able to know specifically, oh, 123 Main Street, it looks great, but it smells like cigarettes and pets. So if they're saying, oh, the other agent that I worked with said our house should only be 900 because there's a model match right down the street, and be like, no, 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 I went to that model match. Smells, that house has been on the market so long because of these factors, even though it looks amazing online. Now, what does that do for you? You're going to get that listing, because who is going out and doing these things? Nobody. People are lazy nowadays. Agents are super lazy. They'll do listing appointments on Zoom. And I'm not saying that I haven't done listing appointments on Zoom, and I'm not saying that's not an efficient thing to do. And there are listing agents that do crazy amounts of business on Zoom. But it's also maybe that they control that neighborhood. It might be that they're selling 100x what you're selling for, and there's a reason that they're doing that. But most of the time, you need to go face to face and show the work. And I guarantee you this: you'll get a lot of respect from your client. So you arrive early, drive the neighborhood, the complete neighborhood, because you never know that down the street from that house there's a trail back there that leads to a lake that's a reserve. It could be that right down the street there's an elementary school. It could be that when you go out there, it's right next to the high school, and that's different than being next to an elementary school. You should be looking on your maps and aerials, but there's nothing like driving the neighborhood. And then you always want to be right on time. That's not 10 minutes early. 10 minutes early can frustrate a seller. How often that you get to a house right on time and the seller's like, could you give me 1 second? I'm just trying to pick up a couple things. So if you get there 10 minutes early, a 10 minutes early for an interview is different than 10 minutes early to a listing appointment. I get there right on time. So park down the street, and then I pull up, 1 minute before, and then I get out, put my jacket on. How I dress and how you dress are two different things. I always go with the sports coat. If you want to go with the black t-shirt or a Roa shirt and a sports coat, great. But if you're just going, very, very relaxed, I know that in some of your markets that's really cool. But when you're going to a seller, I always think that your first impression is the best, and you never want to lose a deal because you underdressed. It's really hard to lose a deal when you're dressed up. And I'm not going into a tuxedo. If I did that, I'd probably lose the deal because I'm overdressed. But maybe your market is more t-shirts, so go with t-shirt with the sports coat and some jeans and some Jordans or something. That's cool, but just show that you're professional. Come up to the door, look around, make sure you're always looking at things like stress fractures on the brick. We have brick. You guys have stucco. I don't know what you're looking for, in your properties, at the front. Just you look at the landscaping, kind of get an eye on what you're going to talk to the seller about. Your goal here is not to be the person, by the way, that's going to nitpick the house. Definitely not. You're going to do all of your preparation discussions after the listing agreement is signed. Okay, so that's just a preface. Door opens, of course, welcome. Hey, how are you doing? Thank you so much. They lead you in the house. This is where you control where everything happens. You should be at a table, dining table. I prefer that than even sitting at a couch on a coffee table. It's just a lot more professional, easy to, write notes down and whatnot. Some of your sellers, let's just call it 50% when you walk in, they say, oh, come over here and have a seat. Let's talk. And what you're going to do is let me put my things down. And then you're going to present yourself to where you are sitting opposite of the clients. I see sometimes people sit at the head of the table, and they'll have one seller on the right and one seller on the left. And then if you're doing that, you're having to do this all the time. you're having to flip the package left and right. Now you need to just make sure that you command where you're going to sit down, and that way you can present. Put your stuff down and then say, will you please take me for a tour of your house? I'd love to see all of it. And then just start walking, through the home, and start finding ways to bring that rapport back. Oh, and you get to the backyard. Show me those the fruit trees that you guys planted. I'd love to see them. My family loves to garden as well. Whatever it is, right? You see a picture of them in the military, or their son in the military, or something like that. Oh, thank you for your service. Does your son live close by? Oh, he's in this. Okay, great. Yeah, my daughter's married. She married into the military as well. She lives in Fairbanks, and so thank you so much for your service. That kind of thing, right? You're walking through. Also, if you see and notice remember this, there's only three things that sell a house. One is location. Actually, it's not even location. Back that up. The three things that are going to be, it's going to be condition, it's going to be marketing, and it's going to be price. Those are the only three things, right? It can be in the worst location. It can be halfway burned down. And if it's marketed right and the price is right, it'll sell. It can be in the best location. It can be the best house on the block. If it's not marketed and priced well, if nobody knows that it's for sale, it won't sell. Same thing. It can be marketed perfectly, best location. If it's not priced well, it won't sell. So those are the three things. So you could walk into a house that's hoarded, feces on the carpet, and you don't have to tell them, hey, by the way, your home's not going to sell unless you clean it up. No, your home can sell in as-is condition. We just got to talk about the price, right? So just know that. So your goal there is really just to build the rapport, respect their house, respect who they are, and then show your knowledge by pointing out things that are more material to the buyer. For example, stress cracks in the sheetrock. And just notice, hey, I just noticed that you had a crack up there. Looks just like a stress crack, but have you had any foundation repairs done? And then you can get that knowledge that way without offending them, but just showing that you're perceptive when you're walking through. Okay. Finish walking the home, and when you're done, these are the key words. I can sell it. That's it. So I walked through, Gabe, this is an amazing house. And you know what, Gabe? I could sell this house. And that's it. And just shut up. Because what you'll find, and what I find, is the homes that are the nicest homes, best condition, best location, they're bullets. They will just fly off the market, priced well. Those are the ones that you'll see even the sellers just sigh. Oh, man, I was worried. I wasn't sure. I know we have a nice house, but I've heard that the market is tough. I've heard that I saw my neighbor's house down the street take 200 days to sell. 7 years ago when we sold our house, it took 10 months to sell. Whatever it is, you'd be surprised where they get their data from. It's a lot of times sellers don't even know what's going on, like with the current market, right? So it's important for you to tell them, use that script right there, and you'll see your percentage of conversion go up, right? Okay. Then you're going to sit down with them and you're going to present the listing presentation. And let's go over my listing presentation. So Gabe, can you put that up really quick?
Yeah.
Now, my listing presentation is mine. You can use it, meaning you can use, but it's really tailored for my team and how we do things. We have a lot of accolades that I'll go over, but you don't need all those accolades to build trust. There are lots of homes out there listed on the market right now with people who've sold one house a year. So let's go through the listing presentation. Let's see, pinch out for a bigger view. Okay, let's see. So this is just the front part. By the way, who's going to be moving the pages? You guys are going to be moving the pages, Gabe?
Yeah, we'll move it for you. Just tell us when to go.
Okay, so first of all, when I do a listing presentation, I always bring it in print, nice paper. I use a thermal binding machine. Sometimes I've used hardback binding machines where it's like a really nice cover, but you have to leave them something. Don't just come in there. It's fine to go in there with a laptop or an iPad and do a PDF presentation like I'm going to do now, but there's nothing like flipping the paper. I prefer going in and flipping the paper. Now you guys, if you have a client that you think that would not go well, then leave them something that's in writing and then go over it virtually. That I'll leave up to you on how you want to do it. Go to the first page or second page. Oh, and backing, you can keep it there. And backing up, I also provide in the listing package when I bring it. I also provide a color example of our brochure so that they can see the marketing material that I'm giving. I put in my business cards in there. And that's it. That's all I bring to the listing presentation, other than my folder, which will include the listing agreement. Always have the listing agreement done, filled out, everything filled out except for the list price. You're going there prepared. This is not a time where you're like, okay, let me send you the listing agreement after we're done. Remember this phrase: time kills deals. Time kills deals. That's it. Doesn't matter. If you do not respond quick enough to a seller lead, you don't go to the listing appointment on time, or you try to set one up 3 weeks in advance. Out 3 weeks out, and not try to get that listing appointment soon. Again, signing listing agreements, signing contracts, anything. Time kills deals. The first page, I'm like, is this the first page? That's not the first page. Can you go back to the very, very first page? Back. You're going forward. Back. Right there. That's the first page. My first page on listing presentation is, and I go really quick. I do not harp on who I am. Like, for example, I'm not going to go through every single accolade. All I'm going to say is that we got an amazing team, award-winning team. We've won a lot of awards in the market, and we do a lot of business. I'm sure you've seen us and heard about us, but I'm not going to talk all about myself. If you want to know about me, more about me, then just ask. I don't want to harp on that I've done this, and this. It's not about me. It's about them. So I just go really quickly. Obviously, we've hit a lot of milestones and awards. You guys, if you haven't, you're new, then you utilize your team's accolades, right? You utilize your broker's accolades, and you'll find that a lot of clients they don't ask you too much about that. They're already confident that that you could be somebody they like to list with because they called you in the first place, right? So, and I go through that quickly. Go to the next page. And then I go, the one thing that we're really proud of is our reviews. Now, this is something you can talk more about, because this is from people who are talking about you, not you talking about yourself. One thing that I pride myself on is first-class service and making sure you have an amazing experience. We have over 1,000 closed reviews, not Zillow, not Google. These are reviews from our MLS, and this is the benefit of the Houston MLS, is that they actually send out reviews to every closed client. And I have to take the good reviews with the bad, but we hold steady at 4.96 reviews out of 5, and that's really good too. Sometimes having a 5 out of 5 is so unrealistic that it gives the client some hesitation whether or not your reviews are good. So it's okay to have a couple bad reviews in there. You can't please everybody, right? And go to the next slide. So what I've done, again, remember, I have talked about my team and that we're competent, and I talked about the experience that sellers have had working with my team. The next thing I'm gonna tell, and so what we're gonna do here, what we're gonna do here, Gabe, is I'm gonna share with you my marketing presentation, and we're gonna go over what's important, such as like location. Again, I don't read this. A lot of times I could say just 3 things. I can say, hey, we're gonna just talk about things like location, timing, and price. And so we can craft the perfect marketing program for you, right? And then I go to the next page. So let me tell you, so this is the tax information that I pulled on your property. We talked about it already, Gabe. But again, I don't go through line by line. I'm just going to hit a couple, 4 or 5 points here. And then but I've got 3 or 4 pages. It just shows that I've done my research. In their mind, they're like, wow, this is a lot of data, even though this is public information, right? So I'm just going to tell them, hey, I see that your house is, when we're doing the comparables, we're going to be looking at homes that are similar in size. Yours is 3,200 square feet, where you talked about you have an ADU. ADU, is that what they're called? ADUs, right? Okay, we don't have those much in Texas, but anyways, and we have this. You have a swimming pool. This is just showing your tax information. And go on to the next page. This also tax. Go to the next one. Go to the next one. Also shows this is your lot size, where you're at within. Back up. No, you're going forward now. You're going to back up. Back all the way back up to the one more. There you go. So you're going to the lot. Go forward one more. There you go. So this just shows, your lot size and the survey, the tax survey of your property. Go to the next page. And now I'm going to show you the properties that we're going to compare your home to. As you can see, this is where your home is at. That's the purple one. And then you can see that the sold properties are right in the same neighborhood as your home, And then I go to the next page. I'm not going to go over this graph that, oh, this is a 4-bedroom, 2-bath, and say there are these 4 homes that have sold. You can see that the average square feet is 2,800. Yours is 3,000, right in line. The average sales price at 510, with the average square footage price of 181. And let me show you what these homes look like. So you go to the next page. And now these are all sold comps because I just put something in really quick for the listing presentation. But again, when you look at the active comps with them, you can tell them that here's the first page, or here's this house on, 123 Main Street. It's very similar. This one was the one that was like 2 houses down from you. This house is very similar to your house. I actually walked this house yesterday. And the difference is that they redid the entire kitchen and whatnot, right? So you're going to give them that information and and then ask the seller, by the way, what do you think about this property and how it compares to your house? Oh yeah, this one's really like it. This matches it up. Then you're getting that positive affirmation that you're on the right track, and even the pricing in their mind. You're not asking anything about pricing yet. You already know that they're thinking about 500 because they told it to you in the previous call. So go through your comps and go ahead and go through all those comps and go to the last page of this comp. Let's see, because they're all the same, right? They're just pictures, comps, pictures. By the way, you should have a professional listing presentation. You should not just bring a package of MLS printouts that are stapled. Because if I go against you and I bring them this, you're going to just look less prepared than I am. Again, we're going to go through, if you back up. Those are just, again, back up. One more right here. This is just going to show you your, again, average days on the market, price per square foot. And then you're going to go into that intelligent pricing. 2 more? 1 more. 1 more. Okay, now back it up. All right. To me, this is really important as well. This talks about intelligent pricing. And so you talk to the seller about, hey, these are the comps. And, just to know, let me tell you about how the market works when it comes to getting the most money for your home and getting the most interest. The first is making sure that you price the property correctly, because the higher that you go in price, the fewer buyers that you're going to have in your market, right? The lower that you go in price, the more buyers that are going to enter into the market. That's all that you're telling them here. And say, so, we had talked about the pricing of the homes, and they're ranging around 500, 510, 520. Let me explain to you, Mr. Seller, or Gabe. Gabe, let me explain to you a couple things. When buyers look at properties, I've never had a buyer ask me, can you find me a home that's priced at $181 a square foot? Can you find me a home that's priced at $200? No, they look at budget. Can you find me a home that is under 500,000, under $1 million, that is at least 2,500 square feet, close to schools, a big yard for my kids to play in, those type of things. So whenever we're pricing, we need to price correctly. So if you look at 500,000 is a price point where you get a bunch of buyers. Buyers search in, depending on what price you're looking at, but when you're looking at 500,000, they're looking at least $50,000 increments. Hey, find me a home at under 550. Find me a home at 500. I never have a buyer say, find me a home at under 517,000, right? And so pricing correctly is important, because when you get to a point where a seller is saying, hey, I would like to price at $510, 510,000, that at that point you can advise them, hey, remember when we talked about the intelligent pricing? If you price at 500,000, you'll have more buyers, because if you look at the market right now, there's X amount of buyers that are looking for a $500,000 house in your neighborhood. And let's just call it 20 buyers. Those buyers are looking currently and they haven't found anything. So when your house goes on the market at 550, all those buyers looking under 500 may not see it. Only the new buyers that are coming into the market are going to see it. So you just want to make sure that you're pricing at that right position so that you get the most attraction to the listing. Secondly is pricing correctly. If you look at this graph, what it shows you is that when you go on the market, you're going to get most of your showings in the first 4 weeks. After that, showings drastically decrease, and then you're just waiting on new buyers to enter the market. So if you price your property at 600,000, it should be at 500,000. It doesn't mean that these buyers aren't going to see it. It doesn't mean that they're actually not even going to walk the property. But what's going to happen is that buyers are going to compare. You know, have you had this happen, Gabe and team, where you call for feedback? You know you have a property that is overpriced, and they say nothing about the price. They'll be like, it was a great house. Everything was amazing about the house. They don't say it was overpriced. They just said they found another one down the street that was just better. That's because buyers typically don't look just in prices, they look in value. Hey, for 600,000, I was able to get the exact same house with a pool instead of just your house that's priced at 600. Now, if it were priced at 500,000, then it would be in line, because all the homes without pools are priced at 500,000. So that's where you're letting your client know correctly in the beginning is important. Because if you were to go on the market at 600, you get all these buyers that came and look at the property. Again, they don't tell the seller that it's overpriced, but you know it's overpriced because you got a bunch of showings and nobody bought it. And then they decide, oh, then I want to drop the price. Well, dropping the price will help you engage some new buyers. But a lot of the old buyers who already saw it at 600, they moved on. Even if the price would have been attractive if they would have seen it day one. Make sense on that?
Yep.
All right. Any questions about that, Gabe?
No, I think you articulated that perfectly. Price versus value. Team, do you guys have any questions? Anything you want to ask Mark up to this point? We have our last 10 minutes that we're coming up to. So jump in if you have a thought.
Smack. I gotta get quick on this. And let me finish the listing presentation then, and then y'all can ask the questions, right? Because I think a lot of this is foundational, but it's the way that you explain to the seller why. It's not that you're saying you won't do it, but your job is to tell them what the repercussions could be if they were to do it this way and overprice the property. Let's go to the next page. Now, what we do here, this is our marketing difference. What I haven't talked to them about is setting the price, or commissions, or setting the price fully yet. We're talking through price. But that's going to come after marketing, because I got to show what my value is. If you just ask me on the phone, hey, Mark, what do you charge? And I tell you, and you haven't seen what my value is, then you might just be comparing me with the 4 other agents that don't have any value. And I'm just more expensive, right? So we're going to talk about the marketing. Hey, we do full color brochures on the exterior and interior of the house. And I tell my sellers this. I know that you've probably seen a lot of homes and they'll use brochures and they'll be 1-page black and white. And I'm like, but we see in color. I'm like, and they're going to say, yeah, I see in color. And so what does it help if you're standing in front of the house and you're seeing color and you got this brochure that's black and white? That's not going to help you. And the other thing is buyers, when they like your property, they want everything they can consume. When they want a brochure, they want the Matterport, they want the video, they want the walkability score. They start wanting more and more. And the more information you have in up front shows your value. Because if a seller comes to this, if an agent spoke to the seller before or after me, and they say, "Oh, brochures don't really work." Statistics show that homes sell without brochures or whatever. The seller's not going to buy that because I've already given them the feeling of what they feel when they want to buy a house, and that this means something. And here's our sign. We have an amazing sign. This is what it looks like. It's beautiful. We use a text writer information. We have a QR code, whatever it is that you're doing to get instant information about the property. That's really cool. Next page. We use HDR photography. That may not matter to a client, but you want to tell them the difference. What we do is our photographers, they take multiple shots at different exposures, like really dark, really light, and then they merge them together to give you the best look of the property. And here's some examples of properties that we sold. At the top, this is our marketing, and the previous agent had it listed like this. And you can see the difference in the way that we present your property on the open market compared to how the previous listing agent had it for the exact same house. And then it shows them the difference. Next page. Also the wide angle and whatnot. Virtual staging. The other thing that we'll do for you, Mr. Seller, or Gabe, you know what? Your house is vacant, and online it just looks really just average when it's a vacant home. So what we like to do is we put in virtual furniture in there so that it gives the buyer the ability to dream about what their house would look like, with it full. Also, we use Showing Smart and to set up all your appointments. So, you're going to know exactly who's coming in and when, and be able to set parameters. If you have your dog or you have a Zoom call, we can schedule that. But let me tell you what the most important thing about Showing Smart is that we call for feedback. And that's the biggest thing for us, because we want to know why that buyer is either deciding to buy your home or not, because we need to make changes. And some of the times it's very simple. Let me tell you a story, Gabe, that I had. This is an actual story. So we had this one house on the market, and I called the buyer's agent who showed our house, and I said, "Hey, what do you think about my listing?" They said, "Oh man, we loved it. Everything was perfect about the house, except that, man, the carpet was like trash." And I was like, "Well, if everything's perfect, why don't you make an offer asking the seller for like a carpet allowance?" And he goes, "Do you think they would do that?" And I said, "I don't know if they would do it, but it's a reasonable request. Why don't you put it together, send us an offer, and let me see what the seller will do." And guess what? We made that deal happen. In Houston, Texas, we have 40,000 agents in the MLS, just in Houston alone. And only 2,000 agents sell more than one house a month. That means 38,000 agents are dealing with less than 12 buyers a year. That means they have, and most of them, 50% you've heard, don't even sell a house. They may sell a half a house a year on average. So what does that tell you? That tells you that the average buyer's agent has not developed the skills to negotiate, to ask. They're just showing houses and hoping the buyer says, "This is the perfect one. There's no objections to it. Okay, let's write an offer." But you as a listing agent have to think outside the box more. And you have to share those stories. And you don't want to share, if you don't have a personal experience, share my experience. And so, yes, sir.
I love what you just said right there. I don't know if a lot of people picked that up. I'm going to put it in other words, the way that I think of it. Our job as listing agents is we have to help these buyer's agents who don't have the experience. We have to train them almost how to sell the offer to their buyer. Because if we don't do that, Mark, it's happened to me a lot of times too, where I've had a listing and a buyer's agent who's inexperienced showed my listing, but they were afraid to ask me the question. They didn't think the seller was going to take the concession. And I had to call them and ask them and say, "Hey, are you guys going to do it?" The same example that you gave. And I had to walk them through it. Go back to your client, let them know to write the offer. This is a concession. You know, it's a reasonable request. I don't see why they wouldn't do it, but just submit it anyways. And we ended up getting the offer because I had to walk the buyer agent through it. So team, what Mark is telling you, it's so important to call every showing and walk them through it and help them sell it to their buyer, because you know, most of us aren't trained to be negotiators or handle tough conversations. Mark, we have about 4 minutes left, so I don't know how you want to wrap this
Let's
up.
keep going. Hey, let's just keep going. Whoever wants to drop off, let them drop off. You know, and if they want to continue, give me 5, 10 more minutes, because this is some good stuff that I'm about to tell you. The
Okay,
other
so
thing
then
is this has to do. Go ahead. This has to do with when you're negotiating a contract, and you're the listing agent, and Gabe is the buyer's agent. And your gap is whatever it is, you know that the seller's not coming up anymore or going down anymore or not giving any more concessions. Here's how you finalize it. Hey, Gabe, I don't even care if I even know Gabe, right? I'm going to say it this way because people like to feel good. Hey, Gabe, I heard that you're one of the best listing agents Hey, Gabe, I heard that you're one of the best buyer's agents in the game. And I know that if anybody can do it, you can. I've exhausted everything that I can do on the seller side, but we're just so close, man. We're less than 1% away. Always focus on the gap. Whatever you're focusing on, just the gap, not where you started and all that. And say, man, if you can just work your best and see what you can do, I'd really appreciate it. And if there's nothing else that you can do, then we'll see what we can do. Boom, right? I'm giving now the power to Gabe. All right, let's go to the next page. Hey, we also do Matterport. Have you ever seen a Matterport? It's 3D, and some sellers have never. Take them through a Matterport. Show them how it looks. They're going to be amazed with that. Also, we have a professional design consultant. Again, I don't talk to them about where they need to move furniture. The one thing I don't want to do is upset a seller, disrespect them, because maybe they set that up and the night before they're like, oh, the listing agent's going to love the way we set the furniture up. And then I tell them, oh, we need to move that couch away from the fireplace. And now I've got this conflict. Any kind of things like that are going to come from my design consultant. If you don't have a design consultant, then you are the design consultant. You do it after you get the listing signed, and you go back to the property to help them prepare before the photographer comes. That's when you're going to talk about all the things like, hey, moving this out of the way, deep cleaning and whatnot. Okay, next page. Again, look, all of y'all's properties, when you put them on the MLS, they get syndicated. This isn't old. I haven't even changed this up, but sellers don't care. I just tell, hey, your house is going to be syndicated on every single website that's out there, because the MLS syndicates. It's going to go to Zillow. It's going to go to realtor.com. It's going to go to wherever, San Diego Homes.com. It will be there. And that's one of the things that we push. Next page. Because you will have people that the reason why you have to say that, because there are people that will push that. And if you don't, they're going to say, but Gabe pushes to 10,000 websites. Mark didn't say anything about it. Right? So that's what you're going to say. The marketing difference, also open houses. This is really important, because one of the biggest things that a buyer's agent or listing agent say is, man, my seller wants me to do 10 open houses. And I'll get that. The seller will say, how many open houses do you do? And I'll tell them, well, actually, we only do one. We do one. We'll do more if we see the need, but really, if you do one the right way, then hopefully we sell it at that open house. And let me tell you the difference on how we do an open house. We always list the property on a Thursday, and we block showings till Saturday. And we always have an open house from 12 o'clock to 2 o'clock. I don't do 4-hour open houses or 6-hour open houses. I do very short open houses, like 2 hours. Because what we're doing is we're creating FOMO on the very first showing opportunity. Now, at 12 o'clock, when it's open for the open house, it's also open on the MLS for everybody to show it. So there isn't any advantage to our team or anybody else. It's the open market is where we're going to get the most money, and that's where we feel we add the most value. But here's what happens in an open house. If you do one where the property is, it just went on the market, you're going to get the listing. Hey, I want to schedule the show. Oh, it's not available till Saturday. Oh, but I got this buyer. Well, they're going to have to wait till Saturday to see it, And then when we'll have lines, right? Every open house that we do, we should have, 10 people waiting Sometimes when you have those really hot markets, you have 30 or 40. And what happens in an open house? They all go. Now you have agents showing at the same time because they don't want to miss it. So they want to get there fast because it's a fresh listing. You'll have 10 people all at the same time going through your open house. It's kind of chaotic. But it's very rare that a buyer will talk negatively about the house in public, out in the open. So typically they'll say good things about the house or they won't say anything about the house. Well, what goes through the other buyers' minds that really love the house? They go, everybody wants this house. I better get back and write this offer really quick. I've had instances, and I tell this to my seller. I had this one open house that I did. We had 35 showings. It was hot. It was a hot listing. And I remember when I was there, I was holding this myself. One of the buyers came up and said, man, I bet you're going to have like 10 offers on this property. And I said, I've been doing the open house. I'm not sure how many we have already, but it's a hot house. I only got one offer on that house, and it was for 10% more than the list price. And it came from the buyer who told me I'm going to have 10 offers. So it was their fear that somebody else was going to buy the home. We never had a multiple offer situation, and we inked the deal right away. Buyer paid 10% over asking price. That's how you prepare for that. And then I tell the sellers, but what about next week? Are you going to do them every week? And I'm like, the great thing about the MLS is that you have 24-hour open house almost. They can see the house anytime privately. All they have to do is call, set up the appointment. Me or somebody on my team will be there to show at convenience, and that's better for you. And so therefore, that's the way we do our open houses. Now, if you notice, we have a lot of people here on the open house. This was something that I did that I learned my lesson on. So page 1 on this listing presentation, and we'll send it out to you. Page 1 where it showed like who I am and what my accolades were. It showed me as a team leader. It showed my listing agent, because this is her listing package, Kimberly, and everybody has their own, them as the main, has our TC, and it also has our listing manager. Only 4 people. Previously, I had my whole team. It was like 30 people on there. And I remember losing a listing. I asked, hey, why don't we get the listing? And she goes, the reason is because it just looked so overwhelming. Your team looked overwhelming. Like, I didn't know who I would call. And so then I switched it to where these are the people that are helping you with this. Here's the person who's helping you with that. Here's our marketing guy. Here's our design girl. Here's our open house team. So go to the next page. So that's the reason why the people are like that. Also, we have a construction team, construction company. So if you need to do anything like paint cabinets or replace this or that, we have the right people. The prices are incredible. And so, because a lot of people they fear also having to make the repairs and get their home ready the way that you want them to. And that gives them anxiety. So you need to take the anxiety away. People, dealing with GCs, that's a common fear for sellers. So if you already have somebody that you can tell them, here's what we've done, and I've showed them pictures. These are actual before and after pictures, and all we did was paint the cabinets. All we did was do painting, change the tile in the front entry of this house, and what took 365 days on the market took us less than, 10 days to sell that house. And all we did was some paint, some lipstick. Go to the next page. Again, same thing. This is just showing properties that all we did was paint and change it. Same thing here. This shows the Mark Dimas effect. Back up. Back one up. Mark Dimas effect shows, hey, we sold this home sold for 99% of list price to sales price. It was originally listed for 231 days by the previous agent. We came in, we did photos, did a little paint, sold it in 5 days. Same thing. 228 days, sold in 18 days. The other one, 200, whatever that says, 58 days, sold in 11 days. Actual properties that have sold. And all we did on these were very, very light paint, and some of them were just photos. Next. And this is the difference between us and the average agent. So, we average 98.95% of list price to sale price. Sorry, a call was coming in. My bad, guys. We average 98.95% of list price to sale price, while the average agent averages 96.6 in our market. That's 2.35% more than the average agent. Now we might do like, and that just, man, I've got my compliance officer calling. Hold on. My bad. Hopefully it's not an emergency. All right. And then we average 500 transactions a year to 8. I mean, even if we did 1,000, I'm not going to put 1,000. I don't want to make it so crazy, right? Our average days on the market are 18 compared to them, and our average experience 20 years to their 7. And here's what we do differently. We do 3D virtual tours, showings, photography, and here's what the standard average listing package looks like, right? So what have I done in the seller's mind? I've give them a comparison to what the Mark Dimas team does and what the average agent does. Go to the next page. And then I go over the list price. This is the net sheet. And I'll say, so Gabe, we talked about pricing, important pricing. Where is it that you would like to land? And then we have that conversation. Okay, I want to do like 500. And if it's 550 or 600, I normally will have 3 net sheets. If it's $1 million property, you might have one for $1 million, one for 900, and one for 1.1 million. And that way you already have the numbers already ready. And this, for simplicity, I just did one. The other thing on this one that I'm sorry, but we're having some technical difficulties. Normally you should have 2 broker fees here. Okay. So you should have your listing fee and you should have your buyer's agent fee. Whatever your listing fee is, 4%. Hold on one second. Training. All right. Sorry about that. Now my CEO's calling, so I got to figure out what the deal is. And here's how I do the listing. So I would say something like this. Sorry, I got off track. Hey, Gabe. So we went over what the average listing agent does and what the Mark Dimas team does. Here's the net sheet. That the average listing agent charges 3% on the listing side. We at Mark Dimas team, we charge 4%, but remember we get 2.2825% more than the average listing agent, and that's it. And then I move on to the next thing. If they don't say anything about that, they have no objection to my commission. And then I tell them about the buyer's agent side. Now, on the buyer's agent side, that's completely up to you on what you want to charge. There's a new ruling that came out that we can no longer advertise buyer's commissions on the listing side, but buyers now have to sign a document with the buyer's agent, and that goes over their compensation. And just know that the average commission that they're offering in your neighborhood is 2.5% or 3%. Now, you can offer anything you want, but just know that since buyers are now having to come out of their pocket to pay for commissions that are not being offered by the seller, some buyers may not be able to afford your home because they can't come out of pocket with that. So I would suggest that we start at 2.5 or whatever that number is. And if you show your worth that you are doing this value and that the average agent does this value, you rarely will get a commission objection here. And then what's the next page? Next page is done. And after that, I'm like, do you have any questions? No, they don't have any questions. Okay, the rest of this is just standard stuff. Here's the code of ethics that we adhere to. I literally just say that. Here's the code of ethics that we adhere to. The next page, I will say this is a, what is the next thing? How to maximize first impressions. But remember, again, Gabe, I got my personal designer coming in. If you want to just kind of read through some of this or go online and prepare, that's fine. But she'll come and really handhold you through that in the next page. And the last thing is just things how to get their house ready for showings and open houses. And the last thing is a checklist for moving. That's it. And I say, now, do you have any questions about anything we've gone over? And Gabe, go ahead and come back on the screen. You don't have to show the listing appointment anymore, the listing agreement. Or he's not here, maybe, or is he here? Or Monica, or whoever wants to get back on. All right, well, they're not, they're on pause somewhere. So The last thing that I do, if they don't have any questions, or I've answered the questions, here's the closing statement. The closing statement is this: hey, Gabe, are you ready to get started? That's it. That is the close. You have to ask for the close. I've had people that I've gotten listings from, and I was like, well, why didn't you go with the first person? Oh, we were going to, but we didn't know the process, and you never asked us to get started. I mean, they didn't know if he needed to come back, a second appointment. Remember, sellers don't do this often. So make sure you ask for the close. If you're not asking for the close, it's your fault. Shame on you. And this is the easiest way. Instead, are you ready to hire me or this and that? No. Are you ready to get started? And if they say yes, you bring out the listing presentation, the listing agreement, put it in front of them and start getting the signatures. That's it. Boom. And that's it. Get your signatures done. Say, hey, thank you so much for your time. My office will be calling you and giving you some documents like the seller's disclosure, seller's interview sheet. We do an interview sheet. I'll have Gabe send that out. It just talked about, hey, what's your average utility bills? When did you replace the roof? When did you do this or that? We also send the seller the MLS input sheet that we created ourselves. Like, hey, do you have a half bath? Do you have Corian countertops? Do you have this and that? You don't need to do all that work. Let them do the work, and whatever they don't fill out, let's say they're a high D and they just fill out 3 things on a 100-page questionnaire, then leave it at that and you go to the house and finish it. But what you'll find out is most of your clients will fill out everything for you, and whatever they don't, you fill it in. And that's it. That's it in a nutshell. Done. Any questions? Before I have to get off. From our hosts. I know y'all probably on mute. I don't even know if y'all can get off on mute from this, but
I do have a question, Mark. Are you able to hear me?
Yes, yeah, I can hear you.
Hi, yes. So I wanted to know, so what if the answer is no, or like I have to think about it? What do you say at that time?
Well, it's okay that people have to think about it. Just I'm not a hard presser because I don't like people to hard press me. I think at that point you need to ask the question. Say, no, that's great. Is there anything that that you haven't asked me that would help you make that decision for later? I'm not here to push you. I just want to make sure that you have all the information. I think if you do a thorough job and you're confident, I would get 90% of my listings. So, and if sometimes you lose some, it's okay. Just make sure you did a great job. So, let's see. Anybody else ready to conclude? Where is Gabe? Did Gabe send something out? Let's see. With the chats. I think that's about it, guys. I've got people who are calling me, so I need to get off this call. But I really appreciate your time. I hope this was of value. I hope this will help you, get more listings. This isn't the last time I'll do a training with you guys. Maybe put in the chat to Gabe what y'all'd like to know more in detail about regarding dealing with sellers and listings and even dealing with buyers. And then maybe we put another class together.
Thank you so much.
Thank you guys. And y'all make it an amazing week. All right.
Thank you, Mark.
Very much.
Thank you. Take care.